Good evening, everyone. It is 6:30, so I will call the Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026 meeting of the Superior Common Council to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilor Ledeen.
Here.
Councilor Anderson is absent. Vice President Moffett.
Here.
Councilor Sweeney. Here. Councilor Fennessy. Here. Councilor Elm.
Here.
Councilor Ludwig.
Here.
Vice President Herrick.
Here.
Councilor Johnson.
Here.
And President Grasky.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Item 3.1 is a public hearing to request comments on community development needs and fair housing choice.
If there's no objection from the council, I will open this public hearing, subject of which, again, is soliciting comments on community development needs and fair housing choice. To my knowledge, there's no resolution attached. Would anybody like to speak in the public hearing? Would anybody like to speak in the public hearing? Would anybody like to provide comments on the subject of community development needs and fair housing choice? Seeing none, unless there's objection, I will close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed.
Item 3.2, the Superior Historic Properties presentation with Museums Director Jess McCullough.
Welcome, Director McCullough. If you could turn your mic on, sir, there's a...
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here to present to the council a summary of our 2025 annual report. I don't wish to go into great detail about everything here, just to provide an update on how the museums have progressed in 2025 and a look forward at what we are, Meteor Maritime Museum and the Old Firehouse and Police Museum. We have about 25 employees in the summer anyway. This includes summer interns, doesn't include interns, volunteers, community service groups, things like that. The main sources of revenue for the historic properties are revenue from guided tours and admissions, events, memberships, space rentals, donations, grants, and city support. So looking back at community engagement in 2025, the museums dedicated a large portion of their efforts toward increased external participation and increased internal events and programming. So this included monthly in-house programming such as the History Talk series, which has been nearly full capacity each month, which is quite an accomplishment. As a former history professor, I don't think I could say that about my classes. The most successful 2025 programming, I won't go into great detail here, but there were a lot of innovative new ideas that were brought forward that were surprisingly impactful and popular. Motorcycles at the Meteor comes to mind, as well as the Easter Fun at Fairlawn Mansion, where 400 people were there to do an Easter egg hunt in March. So in addition to that, the Very Victorian Christmas was also, of course, very popular, and as well as most recently the Princess Meet and Greet with the in conjunction with the Lake Superior Ice Festival, which was 2026, of course. So looking at accomplishments in a different way for 2025, year-end metrics, these are pretty great results. Admissions was up 15%. Gift shop sales were up 85%. The only thing that is a net reduction is total event participants for the year. And this is the result of, there wasn't a murder mystery in 2025. The person who produces those was unavailable, and so we weren't able to put one on. And the other one was that the ice cream social was rescheduled into the fall due to weather concerns. And I'm told that there were still 500 people who showed up for that in the fall, so it was still a popular event. But that basically, those two things explain the reduction in total event participation. Brand recognition, the social media presence of the historic properties went through a sort of renaissance in 2025. Page views are up 325%. Content interactions on social media up 217%. Multiple appearances on TV, community tabling events, and multiple collaborations with other community organizations as well. Looking at restorations and exhibits, we had the old Fire Hall and Police Museum staircase. Lois Pattison's bedroom is underway right now. They are scraping and drilling next to my office, which are kind of exciting sounds, contrary to what you might think. Great city staff working on that. We're also in the process of securing refurbishment for some of our Fairlawn stained glass windows. And I don't know how many have been following the website, but we think we've identified the individual who designed and built those stained glass windows, which is a great highlight on our page for Black History Month. As far as exhibits, we have many more than this, just a smattering of highlights there for people to look over. We're focusing, because we are doing some restoration, we are incorporating more exhibit space to the story of those restorations, the story of, the transition from a private residence to a public residence to a museum headquarters, and now back to it's as close as we can determine to its original state. There were a few awards in 2025. Jordan Stish, our incredible museum manager, was nominated for Community Partner of the Year. And Fairlawn Mansion received the Best Museum Award from Business Rate for the second year in a row. So looking into 2026, our goals for this year. So we are really invested in developing these properties as community spaces. They already are, but we want to make this clear that these belong to everyone and everyone is welcome. We are participating in the Twin Ports Festival of History, where we'll be collaborating and exchanging and newish 19th century piano. On the 29th, we'll have the Peace Trio coming, and they're going to be playing it and presenting on some classical music and things like that. We're going to get back into the murder mystery thing. I don't have to read all these bullet points to you, but there's a lot that we're planning to do and a lot that we're very excited for. For our exhibit goals, one that we are working on now that has been quite an interesting bit of research is in the context of the America 250 anniversary, what is the history of Independence Day in Superior? How has that been celebrated over the years? And there's been a lot of really interesting stuff that's come up that we'll be sharing in a exhibit this summer. So, and just to clarify too, new exhibits are created with the 2026 exhibits and collection budget, along with directed donations from individuals and groups. So we have all those sources of revenue that I was describing at the start. Some of that goes into the general, some of that, there's donations that are, say, I want to donate to refurbishing Lois Pattison's bedroom, and that's earmarked for that. And so that's where we are sourcing the funds for these. So speaking of restoration, 2026 and beyond, main priority right now, repairing the hull crack in the SS Meteor. We just submitted a grant application for that. We should be finding out in July, early July, if we received that. If we get what we asked for, that'll be about half the cost of that repair. We want to restore a couple of bathrooms for a couple of reasons. Stained glass window project continuing. Pipe dreams down the line include a more authentic carriage house at Fairlawn, perhaps, that could serve multiple roles, both for office space, preservation, things like that. And additional 24 projects that are in the pipeline that we have big dreams for. Thank you. I'm happy to elaborate on any of these at any point. My contact information is up there if anyone on the council has questions.
Questions or comments for Director McCullough? Councilor Herrick.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you and welcome aboard, and we're excited that you're excited about the upcoming year. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Sweeney.
Once again, thank you and welcome aboard. Two questions. One, what do you see as the biggest challenge? And number two, what do you see as the biggest opportunity?
Biggest challenge, I think, that there's probably 50 years worth of projects that can be done at these sites. The challenge is probably identifying what are the most impactful, what are the most needed, balancing those concerns in order to prioritize as well as we can and make sure that those are effectively implemented. Biggest opportunity, in my opinion, there are so many great things that can be done with all of these properties and spaces, including with more to come. If the eventual completion of the Princess Theater project and things like that. There are new ideas every day. They come from everyone on our staff. Many excellent programs and potential partnerships to put out, and so I'd say that's probably the greatest opportunity.
Further questions or comments? Councilor Grasky.
Hi, I just want to say kudos, especially to the last year and in transition and chairing tourism. Definitely, your socials are electric. They seem to have a lot of energy behind them, and using them to cross promote on the tourism end has been a nice and really great relationship. So thank you for that, and it's really nice to see the new ideas that are coming forth. So congratulations.
Thank you, and all credit to Jordan Stish, our
Yes,
wonderful museum manager,
absolutely.
for the socials.
Thank you.
Unless there are further questions or comments from the council, thank you very much, Director McCullough.
Thank you.
Item 4.1 is the approval of the minutes from February 3rd, 2026, regular council meeting.
Motion is by Councilor Herrick, the second by Councilor Elm. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
And 6.1 is a report from Mayor Payne.
So, good evening again, councilors. This is looking to me like a long agenda, so I'll keep this relatively short. Mostly, I just want to say a thank you to those who attended, but especially those who organized and assisted with Superior Days since we last met. Everybody's really preparing for that, so I felt really ahead of the game when we go to the big Superior Days next year, which, make no mistake, if we had moderated expectations for this year, they are very, very high for next year. So if you have not gone in a while, please consider making that your year. That's all I have to report right now.
All right, item 7.1 is the business of the Human Resources Committee with a meeting held on February 23rd. Is there a report from the chair?
Yes, thank you. Three items for information's sake. We've updated a job information on the chief building inspector, and we've updated the job description on the public works director. And we went into closed sessions to find out how the negotiations are going with the police union. So that's coming along. We have two items that should be voted on tonight, 4.1 and 4.2. 4.1 is the student worker application as a part-time student worker going to be working. And 4.2 is an updated for the non-union payout for accrual. If they're a non-union and they retire before, they have to take the payout. They don't lose the money, but they have to take the payout. So we had to update that verbiage in the contract, let's call it, but that's not what it is. So If there's any questions, I'll try and answer them. If not, I'll go over to the clerk to read those too. Any questions? Thank you.
The first recommendation is to fill the student worker intern position in the 2026 in the Information Technology Department to assist with GIS data work.
Motion is by Counselor Grasky, the second by Counselor Moffett. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
The second is a recommendation to update non-union salary and benefits policy handbook, section 15B language, to pay out accrued compensatory time upon non-retirement separation of employment.
Motion is by Counselor Grasky, the second by Counselor Moffett. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
7.2 is the Business of Public Works Committee with a meeting held on February 5th. There's a report from the chair.
I've got a report for us this evening. We talked about a variety of varied topics. The critical things were the recommendations here. We went through and talked for quite a while about the lead service line replacement, and we have come up with language that everyone felt really comfortable with, and so we're asking the council to approve that this evening, and also talked about the play structures and features for Hammond Park, which we're super excited about, and talked about that. And so we'd ask the council for their support for that this evening. And also kind of routine, the city purchases garbage carts on a regular basis to just kind of rotate out broken ones. The staff is able to piece together carts that have been damaged, and so they might take a wheel from one and add it to another, or do things they can to extend the life of those. But just the nature of them being in alleys and moved around a lot and potentially hit by a vehicle or something like that, and they do carry a lot of weight. There is a replacement program of those, and so we're just asking to order some of those to phase in some new carts into that program.
Unless there are questions for the chair, I'll ask the clerk to read the ordinance.
The first is a recommendation to approve an ordinance amending City Code Chapter 114, Utilities, Article 6, Public Water Utility to create Division 3 lead service line replacement.
Motion is by Councilor Ledeen, second by Councilor Ludwig. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
The second is to approve the purchase and installation of 2 Burke Nucleus modular play structures and standalone playground features for Hammond Park in the amount of $150,421.90 from Lee Recreation.
Motion is by Councilor Ludwig, the second by Councilor Ledeen. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
And the third is to waive the bidding requirements and purchase 530 garbage carts from Cascade Engineering in the amount of $28,790.
The motion is by Councilor Elm, the second by Councilor Ludwig. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 7.3 is the business of the Finance Committee with a meeting held on February 24th. Is there a report from the chair?
Yes, thank you. Last year, 2025, was a profitable year with a net income of approximately $225,000. So that's nothing short of amazing for a golf course in the northern part of the country. And the golf pro, it tells me we're in a rare less than 5%. So that's they did a great job. So kudos to them. It's always good when you can put money in the bank. The number 2 item, and we're back to the drawing board, so to speak, on the phase 1 for the watering system, let's call it. It got a little out of hand. It went from roughly $450,000 to $1.1 million, and so we're back looking at that. And Todd Janowitz, the Public Works Director, has got some ideas that probably if it's in its infancy now, but from what he says, it'll probably be better and should be quite a bit cheaper. So that's it's on hold. I mean, it's been on hold for a little bit, but we got to do this right too. And so I'm glad we put it on hold and stopped and looked at it, because there's no sense spending 1.1 when we can spend $500,000. So that's where we're working on. So we'll give you a further report on that. The ARPA money is it's just about done. It's just winding it up, and the finance director here is more than welcome to talk about that if he wants. And maybe, Nick, you want to give a little update on the new software system, how that's coming along, if you don't mind.
Is there objection from the council? If you're none, Director Reinhardt, do you want to give us a brief update on financial software implementation?
Oh boy, I didn't know I'd be talking about this tonight. You're going to regret giving me a hot mic on this, because it's an exciting topic.
The 2-minute
Nick,
version.
can I interrupt you for 1 second? I found you are at your best when you're not prepared.
Oh, you catch me off guard tonight, but yeah, ERP is
Director Reinhardt, please.
ERP is going absolutely wonderful so far. My life has been digging into just tons of data, tons of reports. We've completely rebuilt the chart of accounts at this point. I've spent about 30, 40 hours just working on chart of accounts. Not only does that involve pulling data and making sure we have everything in there, you know, we're working on getting feedback from employees, we're working on getting engagement from employees, really trying to keep the whole city involved in this project the best we can. So chart of accounts has been the big thing, working on getting general ledgers prepared to roll over. Honestly, I feel like we're ahead of the game from where we should have been. I think we were projecting chart of accounts being finished towards the end of March. You know, we're 3 weeks ahead on that. So pretty proud of the work the group's doing. It's been a massive uphill lift so far, and there's still a long way to go. But that's what I'll say about that. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions on the subject of software implementation? Financial software specifically. Thank you, Director Reinhardt. Anything further, Chairman Sweeney?
Thank you. A couple of more items, please. Like I said, the ARPA money is just winding up, so that's we should be right on target there, and so no problems with that. Little insurance update. We're continually working on trying to get everything listed on an insurance list, and right now the Park and Rec director has somewhat, with Nick, volunteered to bring all that up to date. So with the land and the playground equipment and all the other equipment, that's going to be a great benefit when we get all that done. So she's working on that with Nick. So kudos for her on that. So that's my report. Any questions? I'll certainly try and answer them.
Unless there are questions for the Chair of Finance, we will proceed to license and fees.
Item 7.4 is the Business of Licensing and Fees Committee. They met on February 23rd. Is there a report from the chair?
Yeah, thank you. The only thing that you see on the agenda here tonight is was the only thing that was on the license and fees meeting for February, and it's all related to the licenses that the city gives for for coin operated amusement devices is what it's called. And the first confusion with this comes in with the assumption that the licenses that the city's handing out is for the like the gambling machines or the for entertainment only at the at the taverns, but those are already ruled illegal from the state, and it's something that the state enforces if they choose. And so the confusion comes in that where we had some taverns historically just paying these fees for these devices that we're talking about it. We made the decision just to stop licensing these and stop trying to regulate them, because there's really no point in trying to regulate a pool table or try to regulate a pinball machine, and so it we just made the decision, and that's what you'll see in your in the packet tonight, where we still, in the ordinance, it leaves the definition of each, but then just directs, anybody to the state statute to, for what is, what's already not allowed by the state. So, kind of I feel like I kind of talked around that, but it's it looks like there was more done than what it actually was, because we're basically just getting rid of 2 licenses that we really don't have any desire to to regulate. So unless there's any questions.
If there are no questions for the chair, I will ask the clerk to read the ordinance.
The recommendation is to approve an ordinance amending City Code, Chapter 18, Amusements, Article 2, coin-operated amusement devices to remove requirement for license to own or operate coin-operated devices.
The motion is by Councilor Herrick, the second by Councilor Fennessy. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 7.5 is the business of the Public Safety Committee with a meeting held on February 19th. Is there a report from the chair?
Yeah, just a quick report from our February public safety meeting. Both the fire and police department gave their updates. The fire department reported 529 calls year to date, including a recent airboat rescue and a commercial carbon monoxide incident where crews ventilated the building. The advanced EMT training is underway. The new fire engine is expected mid-March here. Bids are out for the North End Fire Station with a groundbreaking that's anticipated in early May. The department is also coordinating with the DOT to add a dry standpipe water system to the Blotnick Bridge replacement to improve emergency water access. The police department reported 1,500 calls, 254 traffic stops, 81 crashes, 7 OWIs. Hiring remains a challenge. Of the 39 applicants, only 3 advanced the background investigations, while the department expects to need at least 6 hires in the coming months due to retirements and vacancies. The chief also outlined the rigorous hiring standards and the competitive workforce pressures that faces law enforcement. Under old business, we pushed the towing and disposal of large vehicles over to the next month due to one of the towing companies not being available. And under new business, committee discussed traffic safety concerns at North 51st Street and Hammond Avenue. There was speed data that was reviewed and discussed. The committee supported moving forward with adding stop signs, contingent on coordination with private roadway portion. That's likely to come at a later date, but that's the summary of that meeting. Thanks.
There's no business, but if there are no questions for the chair, we can proceed to the special committees. Let's just go to Wisconsin Point.
Oh, sorry. That's item 8.1.1, which is the business of Wisconsin Point Committee with a meeting held on February 24th. Is there a report from the chair?
Anybody hold a report? Councilor Ludwig?
Yeah, I do have a small report as vice chair of that committee. A couple of items that we're going through in the committee. First is that the design is in the works to create a designated trail at Schaefer's Beach from the parking lot down to the beach. The design will include switchbacks, accessible landing areas, and rim wrap. Although the trail won't be entirely ADA compliant, it still will be suitable to a certain degree for strollers and wheelchairs. Our Parks and Rec staff will construct the trail with $5,000 budget for materials. Wisconsin Point Visitor Use Assessment Survey is now closed, and our consultant, Legacy Works, is currently compiling the data. A report and presentation is scheduled for March 16th. Plans are in the works to obtain grant funding to update the Wisconsin Point Community Management Plan. I'm not exactly sure how old that plan is, but our committee decided it's time for an update. The Cultural Fire Exhibit has now been set up at Lake Superior Estuarium Research Reserve. An open house and panel discussion is scheduled for March 27th at the Estuarium. I'm not exactly sure what the beginning time for that is, but March 27th, put it on your calendars. And last but not least, you see a recommendation to approve a $100,000 grant, which has been awarded by the EPA for the planning and design for the Wisconsin Point Cultural Connections Trail with interpreted signage and amenities. And so unless there are any questions, I will give it back to the clerk to read the recommendation.
That recommendation is to accept grant funding awarded by the Environmental Protection Agency in the amount of $100,000 for planning and design for Wisconsin Point Cultural Connections Trail with interpretive signage and amenities.
The motion is by Counselor Ludwig, the second by Counselor Grasky. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 8.2 is reports without recommendations. At this time, are there any further committee or commission reports to be made?
Seeing none, we can proceed to new business.
Item 10.1 is to approve miscellaneous licenses pending department approvals. You'll see on your desk that we gave you an updated list. There was one additional secondhand article dealer to be approved tonight.
The motion is by Counselor Herrick, the second by Counselor Elm. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 10.2 is to confirm Patrick Road as Chief Building Inspector effective July 6, 2026.
The motion is by Counselor Grasky, the second by Counselor Fennessy. Is there discussion? Counselors, I just want to say it is, with no disrespect intended, it is a rare thing for me to get compliments about building inspection and building inspectors, but I get compliments about Patrick. He gets along very well with contractors and is widely seen as both fair and personable, and has actually been noted for his problem-solving ability. So I know that's not all included in the memo, but I've had a more positive experience than I would have hoped for, and I had high hopes for this class of building inspectors. So I'm very enthusiastically recommending his appointment. Is there further discussion or questions I can answer? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 10.3 is to approve an original Class B liquor and Class B beer license application for the Anglican Corporation doing business as Port Town Tavern located at 1318 Tower Avenue for the current license period through June 30th, 2026.
The motion is by Counselor Elm, the second by Counselor Fennessy. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 10.4 is to approve a resolution setting a public hearing on April 14th, 2026 for the 2025 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report.
Motion is by Counselor Herrick, the second by Counselor Ludwig. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 10.5 is to approve a resolution authorizing the submittal of a state grant application by Mayor Jim Payne and the subsequent appropriation of city funds for a municipal flood control grant project to support a flood mitigation and restoration project along Faxon Creek, including stream stabilization and protection of municipal infrastructure.
Motion is by Counselor Fennessy, second by Counselor Ledeen. Counselors, want to apologize. There was a memo that was meant to be included with this in the packet. We've delivered it to all of you, which contains the details. So I'll answer any questions that I can. I believe I have some ESD and Public Works staff to join me. And Shelley, the things I told you about this project were correct. So I'm pleased that I can be quoted accurately. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 10.6 is an ordinance amending City Code. Item 10.8 is a resolution providing for the issuance, sale, and delivery of $10 million general obligation promissory note, Series 2026A of the City of Superior, Wisconsin, establishing the terms and conditions therefor, directing their execution and delivery, creating a debt service account therefor, and awarding the sale thereof.
Councilors, before I put the question to the body, I would like to invite, if you have no objection, I'd like to invite Sean Lentz, our advisor from Ellers, to give a brief presentation on this bond sale and the city's bond rating. Welcome back, Mr. Lentz.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council members. I've got a brief presentation. I'll move through the material, and feel free to interrupt me with questions as we do so. Okay, as the As the mayor mentioned, at the start of the process for the financing related to the fire station project, one of the steps that we work with the city on is preparing all the disclosure documentation, including what we call an official statement, very similar to like a mutual fund or a stock prospectus, that has a lot of information about this issue specifically, as well as information about Superior in general. That information gets provided to potential bidders, as well as presented to the rating agency. And the mayor and I and Nick had about an hour-long conversation with them about the city's bond rating. The city has been at a AA rating for a good stretch of time now. The AA rating is a very, very strong rating. AAA is the best, then AA plus, and then AA. And having a very strong rating like that is a big assistance to the city when you're trying to secure financing in terms of getting better, lower interest cost bids, as well as getting more bidders interested. So going through that process, the mayor and Nick answering a lot of questions about what's going on here in Superior. The call went very well, and I'm happy to note that they did maintain the rating at the AA level. One thing that's in the full report, and I'm hopefully, if you haven't already received that, Nick could certainly get that to you, but they include a section, I'll just real briefly, about what sort of actions or what changes would be necessary for the rating to improve. Again, the AA is really a strong rating. There's nothing wrong with staying at this level and maintaining this level. But they do note two things: a significant expansion of the local economy with ongoing and continued diversification. So really more different types of businesses all across the business spectrum. And that's really looking at the city in comparison to cities all around the country. The second is growth and maintenance of significantly higher reserves. Now, this is one where when you look at the city's savings and reserve balances, they're very strong. There's no problem with them from our perspective. But what the rating agency is saying is if you really want to build those up and make them even more and more higher and higher level, that could improve the rating. Now, there's downsides to that, of having too much money in the savings that you're not putting to work. So you have to balance those things when thinking about that. On the downside, again, the city's been at the AA level for a number of years, and I think that's a testimony to good budgeting and good management practices and leadership. If you do not maintain and don't continue your practice of good budgeting and maintaining a balanced operations here in the city, if that were to start and go in that direction over a series of years, that could lead to a downgrade, as well as those same reserve levels that I talked about before. If they started going down and getting depleted to a significant or substantial level is the word they use, again, those could also be indications that would maybe move the rating down. So again, very good news, maintaining the AA level, and we were able then to take that news out to the market in soliciting the bids today. Now, the results of the sale are showing up on the screen. We had put together the finance plan with the concept of issuing up to 10 million in total bonds, or notes, excuse me, in this case. The reason for the target of the 10 million, even though the fire station project is more than that, is there's a law, a federal government law and rule around what's called bank qualification. And these are the last a couple middle bullets, I think the fourth and fifth bullet up on the screen. When a community, a city, issues 10 million or less in tax-exempt debt in a calendar year, your debt is considered bank qualified. If you issue more than 10 million in a calendar year, your debt's considered non-bank qualified. So it can be in a single issue or multiple issues if you go over that amount. The main reason you want to stay at or below 10 million is there is a noticeable lowering of interest cost or interest rates for debt that's at or below 10 million. The high rating, that AA rating, is really what allows for attention. The high rating, that AA rating, is really what allows for attention on an issue like this from bidders all across the country, not just, say, in Wisconsin and Minnesota. The interest rate, blended interest rate for the issue, the $9,540,000 is at just under 3.6%, and that would be a fixed interest rate if approved by the council this evening. And it'll result in new debt payments for the fire station project, starting with your budget this fall for the payment starting in '27 of about $690,000 in principal and interest each year to pay that debt off over a 20-year period. The debt would be prepayable starting in the 8th year of the 20 years and at any date thereafter should lower interest rates be available, or if a surplus of cash was built up that you wanted to make a payment. So 8 years of not being able to be prepaid, the last 12 you would be able to prepay it. Okay. In comparison, when we talked with the pre-sale report that we provided you about a month and a half ago, estimated interest rates were right around 4%. So we're really good to see that, about 40 basis points lower with the winning bid from BOK Financial Securities this morning. So with that, this evening, to accept that winning bid from BOK, we would need to approve the resolution that's been prepared by the city's bond counsel, Freiberger. If that is approved, the closing on the issue will be later in March this month, toward the end of the month. And at the time that the city receives those funds, those borrowed proceeds, they will be put into a separate account and invested. In interest earnings on the borrowed proceeds can also be used to help pay for construction projects throughout the construction of the fire station. And that action will probably happen as well in terms of putting together an investment plan that corresponds with the gradual construction of the project over the next 12 to 18 months. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions of either the mayor and the council. But again, our recommendation would be to accept that winning bid from BOK Financial Securities.
So what we'll do now, councilors, is invite questions of Mr. Lentz or Director Reinhardt before I entertain a motion to consider the resolution. Are there questions? Councilor Sweeney.
I have two questions. One's related to the 3.6, and the other goes back to, you said if we increased our reserves, okay, to AAA, it would lower our interest rate. Based upon your many years of experience, if we doubled our reserves, just off the top of your head, what would that bring this interest rate down to?
I would say if you doubled your reserves, and what you're
I think
probably
the premise is if we were at a higher bond rating,
yes,
AA
exactly.
plus or AAA. Yeah.
Yep. If you doubled your reserves and they raised us, that of itself, I don't think would get you to AAA, just to tell you how hard it is to get to AAA. But if we got to the AA plus, as the mayor pointed out and as you're asking, I would say instead of a 3.6, we'd probably be looking at a 3.5, 3.45. So 10 to 15 basis points.
That's fine. That's
Yep.
what I thought.
Yep.
Okay. That probably isn't worth it then.
No.
Okay.
No.
My next question then, 3.6, and the money is going into our account when?
March 24th.
Okay. And it's going to be spent, it's going to be in that account for how long are we projecting?
It's the construction schedule.
Yes, I don't know this construction schedule off the top of my head, but it is a phased approach. So there'll be a fairly large portion of that that's dead up. That's going to be for mobilization that goes out immediately. I'm guessing upwards of half of it, most likely, and then it's going to continue to get phased out as time goes.
Yeah,
so.
okay.
Actually, we are going to partner with Ellers to invest it. So we have this thing called arbitrage that we have to deal with. So we have a certain time period we have to build this in. It's 2 years in this. We got some exemptions there where you can invest it. It gets a little tricky though if you start going over that period, because then you have to deal with arbitrage rebates, which is you earned past the period you can have interest, and you have to rebate that back to the federal government. They call it a rebate, I call it a tax. We'll argue about that one all day. But so, we have a 2-year construction schedule, I'd say a large portion, and then I'd say you kind of see more regular chunks of that go out. Partnering with Ellers, and we're working on a schedule for that right now.
2-year max construction schedule.
So that leads to my question is, when the money is in an account, what projected interest rate do we anticipate receiving?
It varied anywhere from 4% down to 3%. I believe long-term rates are looking a little lesser right now. Yeah, you'd agree with that, Sean? Okay. So, I mean, we see a little bit of a downward trend, I'd say. But you don't know what the market's actually going to do.
Yeah, what we tend to, the strategy would be to get from the contractor and from the engineer, architect of the project, a projection of the necessary use of the funds over the next 2 years, as the mayor said, and then match investments to those draws to try to maximize the interest earnings over that period of time.
My last question is, we're not backloading these payments, are we?
No, the payments are that $690,000 that I mentioned, starting next year's budget. It's the same for the next 20 years.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Moffett, did you have more questions?
Yeah, just wondering a little bit about if you could refresh us a little bit about bond capacity for the city. I know obviously if we wanted to do a project, say for one of our, like for stormwater or whatever like that, of course you can use revenue bonding for that, and so that doesn't count under our general capacity. But can you refresh us a little bit about the city's general bond capacity right now in a general way, and roughly how this fits into that?
Yeah, this issue will count against the GO borrowing capacity. The city's general obligation borrowing capacity is limited to 5% of the equalized value of the entire city. So we're at about 1.6 billion, I think, in value, somewhere in that range. Yeah. I think, I'm going a little bit by memory, it was in our pre-sale report, but I believe with this issue, we're around 50-50. We've used up 50% of the borrowing capacity, and we have 50% remaining. So you're in a very strong position. You have very much significant capacity should other projects come up that you decide need to be financed.
That percentage even seems high.
Yeah, you might even be a little, I'm trying to be conservative, you might even be a little stronger than that, having more than 50%.
Well, keep in mind, we have local restrictions that we've imposed on ourselves that pretty severely restrict our bond capacity, but even...
And there was no concern about where the city, and there was no concern about where the city currently sits on that front.
Okay, yeah. And so, I mean, for the purposes here, we've got plenty of capacity without impacting our financial stability at all.
I would agree with that statement.
Okay.
Yes.
The first question I was going to ask is if we can take out a bank qualified loan for $10 million, why don't we do 10 million instead of the 9.5? But then I got my question answered on the last page related to the comment that you made about the premiums. So we're basically receiving about 9.5, and there's the reoffering premium of $450,000. What does that mean? The reoffering premium?
Yeah, it's easier looking at the numbers if you're a numbers person, but when we get the bids, we get a price and the interest rates from the bidders. That's what we combine those things together to determine what is the lowest overall cost proposal that is being provided to the city. What we see in the market right now is bidders want to pay extra money to buy your debt, and as a trade-off of giving you more money to buy your debt, they charge a higher coupon rate. So you as a city are getting more money up front from them, but they charge, in this case, they're charging a straight interest rate of 4% every year on the repayment of this issue. The market, though, interest rates each year is a little bit lower than that, and the difference between those two numbers is why they pay you that extra amount up front. Now, when we get that extra amount, state law kicks in. In Wisconsin, when we get a premium, we're not allowed to put that into the construction fund. With a general obligation issue like this, premium can only be used for two purposes. One is pay off existing debt, which we don't have in this case. And the second is we can put it in the debt service fund to make a payment on the next payment that the city is going to have on the debt, which is in 27. So what we've done in this case in order to take that into account is the actual gross payment that's due in 2027 is over $1 million. But after we use the premium we received, the net amount that the city's going to have to levy is that $690,000 that I talked about. So that's how we're using that premium that was received as part of the sale today.
So the premium is actually somewhat of like a discount. It's not like a charge that we're paying, or am I misunderstanding?
You are getting the dollars, but the coupon rates that we actually pay them back on over the 20 years, instead of being right on where the yields are, where the current quote-unquote market is, they're at 4%. And they're a little bit higher. So they give you more money, with the trade-off being that they can charge a higher interest rate over the life of the loan. And when we put that all together, all the bidders are doing that these days, so it's not like the winning bidder today is unique. That we're seeing this across the board. We put all of those factors into comparing, and that's where we come up with that true interest rate. So even though you're paying a coupon rate of 4% each year on the repayment of the debt, the net true interest rate is 3.6% because you're getting that extra money up front.
Sure. Yep. No, that makes sense.
And they do that, they're doing that to make, because they're gonna go and sell this bond, they wanna make it more attractive to the people they're selling it to. So I wish I had the slide on this, but you can see like the reoffering or yield. Correct?
Yeah,
So you can see the reoffering yield versus what they're gonna coupon this. So the coupon rate is above that reoffering yield, which makes it better for the people they're gonna sell it to. They're like, oh, I can get, well, in this case, it's a really odd one because it's a straight 4%. Usually we don't see that. But yeah, I mean, to me, honestly, when I look at this, I'm like, hey, this, if you wanted a nice, easy 4% for a while, this would not be a bad bond to buy.
Right. And then it really doesn't have anything to do with this in particular, but I'm just more curious. So if the max that the state says you can have is $10 million in bank qualified loans that are going to give you a lower interest, what's the benefit, or what's the reasoning behind the state saying you can only get this lower interest on this much? I mean, it almost, is it to curb or to control like bonding?
Yeah.
It's really cool, actually. In my opinion, it's really cool. So what they're trying to do with this is they're trying to actively encourage investors to buy small issuances. So for example, small city X, Y, and Z in Wisconsin may only issue $5 million in debt, going against, I don't want to say monsters like us, but, $10 million issuances. So the banks have a lot of incentive. They're giving them that extra incentive to buy those smaller issuances is essentially what's happening. So, it's already tax exempt. Now they get bank qualified on top of that and get a little bit extra of a bonus. So that's the whole idea, is it keeps those small issuers a little more in the game.
So although $10 million seems like a lot to us, it's peanuts compared to some of the bigger municipalities.
Yep.
So it's actually a little bit of a reward for the smaller municipalities than the larger.
You got it exactly.
Okay.
The whole concept.
5 million, so roughly about 95 million in capacity remaining.
Yeah. And that's with the 5%. So with the 3%, it'll be a little lower than that. Yeah. And that's with the 5%. So with the 3%, it'll be a little lower than that. Yeah.
And the equalized value is 2.8 billion.
I was low. Yeah, 2.8. Much better.
Okay, Councilor Elm.
Just a quick question about our rating here. I know you showed some of the metrics of what would signify increasing that rating, lowering the rating. We know having proper reserves can help improve that, but I kind of got some body language that you were thankful we got the AA rating for this. Are we close to getting a lower rating? Like, what if we were to borrow more for other projects? Are we on the edge, or did I misread that?
Yeah, no, I didn't mean to give that impression. The one impression I got from talking with Standard & Poor's, is the rating agency that we talked with, is as they view the city of Superior compared to communities all around the country, they feel that the AA is a very appropriate rating right now. When I hear that from them, that typically means that they don't see, without significant changes, upside movement, but they also don't see, without significant deterioration, downside movement. So I think the way they look at Superior right now is the AA is right where you should be.
There was quite a bit of conversation around that point on the call, and we really pressed them on the point on what did they mean by growing the economy to a point where we could increase that rating. And they were like, listen, just don't ask, because it was, it's not a matter of like add a couple of new businesses and our bond rating grows, or it's a matter of increase your population by like 5 or 10 times its size. So for perspective, the city of Duluth is also a AA, so right. We would have to get measurably larger. I think the city of Minneapolis is AA, if not lower. Chicago's like 3B. And right. City of New York, I think, is AA. So the, now, big population, a lot of financial problems. So that was tough to reach. Definitely many things we could do to reduce it, but I didn't get the impression that we were in any danger. The only time that I got a little bit nervous on that call was Standard & Poor's mentioned that they had tightened their standards by which, or some of their criteria by which they measure people. And I don't remember them going into that, exactly what those metrics were, but we met even the new requirements.
Yeah. The one last, to piggyback on the mayor's comment, that I would say is that the things that you as a city staff and elected officials have really a lot of direct control over. So your balanced budgets, your conservative practices in budgeting, your fund balances, the amount of cash that you have in reserves for security purposes, those things that you have a lot of control over, you're getting credit for those, and they're considered rating strengths of Superior. So you as a community, those factors that you have control over, you're managing very well. The rating, though, also has a lot of factors that you can't control directly, and those factors are probably what I would say is the limiting factors from you getting to those next higher levels. Those are, as the mayor said, you'd have to see some seismic changes, probably in things that you just can't control. And that's where I was coming to the conclusion that the AA, because you're managing what you can control really well and dealing with some of the factors that are out of your control, you're dealing with them as best you can. They feel like the AA is a very good landing spot for Superior.
Excellent. Thanks for the clarification. I was just, if we got some larger projects coming up, if we're taking more of these out in the future, that's going to impact interest rates if it were to be dropped. And that's what I wanted clarification. So I didn't know how close to the edge we were. And it sounds like because of our past due diligence, we're solid in the AA ranking. Thank you.
Councilor Sweeney again, please.
I think I heard you say this, but the interest rate is fixed for how many years before you can refinance? What did you say that one number was?
Yep, you bet. So there's a call date in this issue in 2034, so 8 years from now. Starting on that date through the rest of the life of the issue, at the city's option, if you wanted to either make a prepayment to pay it off faster, or you wanted to refinance everything that's outstanding and lock into lower interest rates, the city can do that in 2034. If interest rates skyrocket and you accept the bid tonight, you are locked in for the full 20 years. The option is the city's, not the bondholders. You guys control whether the issue gets prepaid. You control if the interest rate ever gets changed.
Did you say the option is ours tonight and we make that decision?
Sorry, yep. If you accept the bid tonight, you
okay.
lock in to the 20 years.
After 8 years, then we can either pay it up A or B.
The motion carries.
Item 10.9 is a contract with Clarity Movement Company in the amount of $6,189 to carry out community air monitoring project and accept the associated American Geophysical Union Thriving Earth Exchange reimbursement.
Motion by Councilor Dean, second by Councilor Grasky. I owe you a bit of an introduction here, councilors. This was something that was brought up. If you were paying attention to Superior Days, or if you joined, one of the Superior Days issues was to try and secure regulatory air monitoring by the DNR in the city of Superior. We do not have a regulatory air monitor, and so we were asking the DNR to do that. That is the government agency that does that. And so this was brought forward by a group of regular citizens who, in the course of their work, were also trying to gain baseline data about the general air quality in Superior. They've been documenting complaints about literally just the smell that folks are picking up, but also they've been getting third-party sources of information and trying to assemble some data to help continue to make that case to the DNR. They brought to me this proposal, which includes a small grant. It's obviously a very small number. It's often these wouldn't even come to council, but for two reasons. One, when I read the procurement policy for services, if there's not a dedicated source of funds for that, it should come to council. I think I could argue the neighborhood improvement fund would be for that, but it's just unique enough. This ought to come in front of you before it gets adopted. But also, it's not something we typically do. It's definitely something we can do. The point here is nobody does it. It's the DNR that's supposed to be doing it, and we're trying to convince the DNR to do it. And so it needs a home. And in discussing with these citizens, this is the kind of thing that happens within the city all the time. Department heads bring me these kind of contracts all the time. Occasionally, city councilors bring me these kind of contracts. This is actually quite a bit cheaper than what most department heads bring me. I've never had it happen from the public. And so I'm putting it in front of you. I am at your disposal. I'll explain. We wrote a memo describing it. I don't want the citizens that brought it to bring a presentation. If you have a lot of questions about this, it should be referred to committee and we'll talk about it there. If you're comfortable, as I am, spending, it's actually less than $6,000 because there will be a grant that we get to receive, then we can adopt tonight, and we will report back to a committee. I think before the meeting we agreed Public Works. So there will still be a report on the data. So questions or discussion? Councilor Herrick.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was kind of surprised to see this because I know we took this issue down in Superior Days, and I thought, well, that's pretty quick. I think, we did a pretty good job. But I think this is a great opportunity, and the price is low, and I think it's something we should do so that our citizens know that they can be healthy. So my next question is, can this be an ongoing thing, or is this a 1-year thing, or what do we have here?
Well, it's new enough that it's hard for me to answer that question.
Okay.
I do hope to see ongoing air monitoring, obviously. This is not regulatory air monitoring. This is not what we are asking the DNR for. This is meant to get baseline data to help make the case that enough emissions exist that they should be documented in a more official way by the DNR. In other words, if anybody, including the city of Superior, were to apply for an air permit, they would not be able to use the data from this proposal for that permit. You can only use either modeling or actual regulatory air monitors. Again, what this is just meant for is to have, it's less than regulatory air monitoring, but more than the purple air monitors that you see. It does go into quite a bit more detail than that. So as we continue that conversation with the DNR, I would hope that, yes, we would continue to gather data until we get to that point.
Yeah, and I agree. I think this would be great information. Thank you.
Councilor Sweeney.
So it's my understanding the official monitoring is in Duluth somewhere?
Yes, it's up by the airport, I think.
But that was my question. And that's supposed to be, the official one would take into Superior, right, as we sit here, right?
Conceivably, and they can, and applicants do use that air monitor in applying for air permits. The argument that the group made at Superior Days, though, is, and I thought they made it fairly effectively, it's not adequately capturing the emissions from Superior.
I agree with that, but I just want to make sure that that's where the one, if somebody were to come to it, that's the one they used today.
Yes.
Okay. And then my next question would be, how are we going to determine the location of this?
Oh, that's it. It comes with professional services where.
Okay. That's all I wanted. Thank you.
It's got to be a better way of saying this. A scientist comes with this to work on this. Further discussion. Councilor Fennessy.
If this is it that this is a different level and like depth of air monitoring, and that's why it doesn't meet the definition of regulatory, or does it not meet the definition of regulatory air monitoring simply because it's not done by like the DNR?
The latter.
Okay.
And the DNR has a number of things that they do and a number of standards. This will be less than that. What this is it's, again, more than what we have out there with the purple air monitoring, and this comes with analysis. So DNR regulatory air monitoring is going to be more air monitoring to a community. I think that's been an agency decision that they've made. So like to have a truly grassroots effort of a community saying, we want you to look at us. I'm not saying that has never happened. I'm just not aware of it. So I don't know.
I was just wondering if maybe in the pitch for whatever Clarity movement that they've done this before and said, hey, we've successfully used this to help lobby for continued air monitoring by a regulatory agency in area A, B, or C.
That's a very good question. But even if the answer were yes, I would point to, if you haven't seen the presentation that this group of citizens put on, you ought to. And because even if Clarity is willing to help us do this, I would never put them in front of Pam Savoy.
No, I agree. I'm just wondering if that was part of their pitch, that there was some framework for us to use to try and get to that point. But yeah, I'm all for this. It's pennies on the dollar to be able to find a baseline and to help convince the regulatory agencies that we need something. Not up on top of the hill, but down on the hill.
In full fairness to your question, I should say the answer is no. This is a data collection service. This is science. They will leave the politics to us. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the contract, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Unless we have any further business, we are adjourned. Thank you, councilors.